Whether you're a pastor, a team lead, or a volunteer, we all have the same calling: to advance the kingdom of God. That was birthed inside of you long ago, according to Ephesians 2 and 10. You were created to perform good works that would advance God's kingdom. The problem is, most of us are good at doing the work of ministry, but unfortunately not so good at the advancement part. So what do we mean? It's easy to default into a mode of just getting ready for Sunday. We call that maintenance mode mentality. The problem with maintenance mode is you seldom see growth. And if something isn't growing, it's dying. And this is the reason we see so many churches close their doors. Somewhere along the way, they lost the passion for progress, the appetite for advancement. Today, we want to share with you what it takes to set yourself apart with 4 steps to seeing massive progress in your ministry. Let's do this. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place for pastors, church leaders, and volunteers to grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Hilton, church planters in rural America.
Before you can look ahead to the new year and begin devising a plan for success, you really first need to look back. And when I say look back, there's a couple things that I like to do that I have found for our personal life and for our ministry really make a huge difference. And that is reflect and evaluate. When I say reflect, what I'm really talking about is, the year goes by so fast that we're always so focused on what's coming next, especially in the church, okay? In the church, we are an event-driven organization, and you may not think that, but if you are really thinking about it, every single weekend, we have an event. We have Sunday services. We have midweek services. So we're always, like you said, Brad, we're always getting ready, right? And it's really easy to just get in maintenance mode because we are always preparing for the next weekend. So sometimes we need to just stop and look back. And the end of the year is a perfect time to do that and just say, what has God done? Like, go all the way back. And this is what I personally do. I take my calendar because honestly, it's hard to remember everything that happened in the last 12 months.
Yeah, it sure is.
And so I like to take my calendar and I literally just go page by page, January, February, looking at what did God do? And alongside that, taking our goals from that year and looking at what did we set out to accomplish and what did we actually accomplish? Then evaluate. And when I say evaluate, what I'm really talking about is where do we need to get better this next year? So that you're not rolling into the year in that maintenance mode, but you're really, after you've reflected, now you're evaluating, okay, I know what God did. I know what goals we accomplished last year. Where do we need to go in the new year?
Yeah. Okay, the first step to setting goals that are going to help you to see massive success in this new year is make sure that your goals are realistic and achievable.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when I say this, 2 types of people come to my mind. We've worked with people, a lot of different types of people in ministry, and I've seen a lot of people that oftentimes will set the bar way too low because they don't want to put that pressure on themselves.
Because they want to make
personally.
sure that they succeed.
They want to make sure they succeed.
Right.
And let's just be honest, a lot of it has to do with laziness and just not wanting to push yourself. Okay.
Right.
So,
or the fear of failure.
Right.
So either one, it's easy to set that bar
so
really
it's
low
easy
and
to
be
set it
like,
real low.
I accomplished it.
Okay, but that's
not what we're
that's
talking
not the
about.
kind of person you want to be. You want to push yourself to and stretch yourself to be your very, very best. But then there's other people like me that I set the bar so high that a lot of times it's not even in this hemisphere. It's not even anywhere near planet Earth, and so that's no good either. You have to find a happy medium and really learn to be realistic, and that comes to with being in the ministry for a while, because as you were talking about reflecting and looking back, you can see what is realistic for your given situation.
Right.
You can look back and you can see growth trends, whether it be maybe the number of new families that you're seeing come through the doors, or maybe the number of followers that you're seeing, follow you on your social media accounts.
Yeah.
So you can see over the last couple years, if you've been in ministry for a little bit, you can kind of see the growth and the trend. So you can see what is achievable, and you can kind of begin to project and say, okay, well, we saw a 25% increase, with this metric last year. This year, I'm going to set a goal, for 30%, whatever that might be.
Right.
But what we're talking about is just making sure that those goals that you set, they are realistic, they are achievable. Now, let's also, take into account that there's times when God is going to drop something in your spirit, and He's going to show you some things that He wants to accomplish in that next year. Now, that's a whole nother level
Right.
of being realistic, because this is God's version of realistic.
Right.
And you have to learn how to balance the two out. A lot of times, there's things that we have in our hearts that we want to see happen. Sometimes God blesses it, sometimes He doesn't, and that's okay. But then there's times when God plainly speaks to you and He shows you, this is what I want to do. And you think to yourself,
there's no
way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's really how you know it's God. Like sending us in the middle of nowhere to plant a church with very, very little money and, no people and no building. We thought, how on earth is this even possible? But come to find out, God is faithful and He blesses. And so, part of setting those goals that are realistic and achievable is also being very prayerful and very sensitive to the Holy Spirit and just opening your ears and letting Him speak to you. And when He shows you something, write it down.
So the second step in setting goals for success is be specific and measurable. So many times we see goals that are so vague, okay? Like, we want to see the church grow this year. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody does.
Who doesn't?
Right? But you got to be very specific. For instance, if you have seen, let's just throw out a number. If this last year you saw 250 newcomers to your church, okay? Then this new year, you might set a goal to say, we want to see 300 newcomers come through our door, right? You up the ante, but you are very specific and very measurable. So then you could even divide that number over the course of the entire year. So if we want to see 300 new families, new people come through our doors over the course of 52 weeks, how many do we need to see every week? Right. Now you broke it down to where you can actually track it. You can actually look at it and determine week over week, even with your team. Like, guys, we made it this week. We hit our goal this week. Every team always needs more volunteers.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're a team lead and you're putting as one of your goals that you want to recruit in the new year, well, that's not specific.
That's not a goal.
Okay, and it's not measurable.
Yeah.
So you've got to write down, I want to recruit 12 new volunteers to be recruited and trained in the new year, okay? Then that is very specific, and it's easy to break it down to say, hey, our goal is one new volunteer added to this team every single month in the new year, right? As lead pastors, this is something that we require of all of our staff. And when we ask for goals and they come in, this is one of the things we're looking for. Are you being specific? Are you being measurable? And if you are just pulling a number, your pastor's going to know it, okay? Like, it's obvious. It's like, okay, but why? So really think it through.
Okay, the third step to setting goals that are going to help you to see massive success in your ministry is detailing the steps to accomplish the goal. This is huge, right? And what we're talking about is really lining out achievable objectives. With every goal that you set, you're going to notice immediately that there's 5 or 6 mini goals that kind of rise to the surface. And this is what I'm talking about, just detailing out that plan. You've heard us say it before, and it's an old saying, but it's if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You have to detail out a plan for the goal, or else you're not going to see it get off the ground.
So right now, I think about, I mentioned earlier about wanting to have additional newcomers, like increase the number of newcomers coming through your door. And I'll even say this, ultimately, we're all here, as you said in the beginning, to win people to Jesus, okay? The way we state that in our mission may be different here than it is for your church, but that's what the ultimate goal is.
Right.
Well, if you are going to see people come to Christ, you're going to need to see new families walking through your doors on a regular basis, okay? Otherwise, who are we getting saved, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think about, okay, if we want to increase the number of VIPs or newcomers, we call them VIPs, very important people. If we want to see that number rise in the new year, then one of the things that we're going to be looking at is, okay, let's put some outreach events on our calendar. And when I say events, I don't even necessarily mean something that's happening aside from your Sunday service. It might be something on Sunday that's going to draw a crowd.
Into it, yeah.
Okay? So for us, when we have baptisms, when we have baby dedications, when we have special services, these are all things that draw people
We get a lot
in.
of VIPs.
So if I'm going to set, 5 goals for the first quarter in the new year, then once I've set those 5 goals, then I need to go back and I need to say, what is it going to take to accomplish that goal?
Yeah. So the fourth step in setting goals that are going to really help you in this next year is keep the goals in front of you constantly.
Yep.
This is where you make sure that on a regular basis, you have these goals posted somewhere where you can see it.
I love what Habakkuk says in chapter 2, verses 2 through 3. It says this: write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so whoever reads it may run with it.
Yeah, that's good.
When I think about this passage, I think about, as leaders, whoever's on your team, they need to see these goals written out. So now as a leader, you're not just trying to accomplish something on your own, but you're pulling in your whole department.
That's right.
You're pulling in the whole team and you're keeping it in front of them and you're saying, hey guys, here's our goals for 2024 or 2025 or whatever year you're coming into.
Creating those healthy lines of accountability.
And then you're looking at them and you're constantly measuring every week, how are we doing, right? You're celebrating, you're tweaking to make it better. So you got to write it down. I remember reading just the other day, and of course I've heard this many times before, but so often we have goals, supposedly, and they're right here. Mm-hmm. And a goal that is not written down is actually not a goal. It's just a wish. And wishes rarely come true.
Rarely. And you just need to find out whatever works for you. Some people like to put their goals on Post-it notes, and maybe you want to put it on the dash in your car. Maybe you want to put it somewhere. If you work in an office, you want to put it above your desk. Maybe you want to put it on your mirror when you're getting ready. But what's most important is that you keep it in front of you constantly.
I like to have those goals printed in front of me every single day. So at my desk, I've got them in front of me. I've got my weekly planner that I'm literally taking the objectives and I'm adding it to my planner so that during my week, I'm making sure that I'm actually accomplishing something towards the bigger goals. And it's going to be so important that you're not only writing down the goals, but that you're keeping them constantly in front of you and in front of your team, which is going to be something you're saying all the time in huddles. You're keeping everybody informed.
Everybody needs to have goals, and there needs to constantly be a focus on attacking those goals each and every day, each and every month, all year long. So we hope this has helped you. Hope it's blessed you. We'll see you next time.